Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Black Mirror Season 6, Episode 1, Joan is Awful. Before I jump into this review, please subscribe, please comment your thoughts. All these things help in so many ways. I'll be doing every episode of Black Mirror this season, so you're not going to want to miss any. So this episode was directed by Ali Panqui, who actually wrote on Schitt's Creek, so it makes sense she's directing with Annie Murphy being the star, and this was written by, of course, Charlie Brooker. This episode was an absolute wild experience watching it, especially how timely it is, how self-aware it is, how meta it is, and it's the craziest thing while you're watching this, thinking about how Netflix has an episode of TV absolutely destroying Netflix on their own service. I mean, the episode literally starts in the Netflix font, Joan is Awful, and you're just replacing the word Netflix with Streamberry in this episode. It's crazy when you watch it a second at a time, knowing where everybody is, knowing that Salma Hayek is playing the real Annie Murphy, and that Annie Murphy is playing the real Joan. But it's an absolutely important episode of television with literally what's going on with the writer strikes right now and all the implementation that studios want to use with AI. And this episode does such a good job at showing the horrors of that. What makes this Black Mirror episode scarier than any other episode is it's like actually happening right now. And I think that even heightens the importance even more of it. I also think this episode has a couple commentaries not only on the AI, but also on how we have to remind ourselves when we watch shows about people that a lot of things are dramatized for dramatic purposes. And you even see in the title, Joan is Awful. We know from watching the beginning of this episode, Joan's not awful. She's not great, but she's not awful. And you see that Salma Hayek, her representation of Joan, is everything is exaggerated. Everything's said a little more mean. They even have, when she's fighting with her fiance, him saying, you know, everyone's right about you, you're just awful, which he never says in the real story. So I think it's a commentary in that too, that we have to also be careful and remind ourselves when we're watching things about people, that sometimes things are dramatized and we're embellishing one part of somebody, and that we need to understand there's got to be a little more sympathy there for people, because it shows with Annie Murphy's character of Joan that she is almost driven to be awful by doing the defecation in the church and then cheating on her fiance. These are things that she just was like, if everyone's seeing me awful, I might as well just be awful kind of mindset that started setting in with her. I love the payoffs in this episode that come full circle. Like when we see Annie Murphy's Joan, feels like she is on autopilot, she says to her therapist, and that she feels like, I'm not the main character in my own life story. That will come back to the real Joan saying this, but we see that she feels like the main character in her own life story because she's not under this corporate umbrella anymore. She's her own boss. She's living her dream that literally Annie Murphy says she wanted her dream to one day run a coffee store, and she's doing it, and she is happier. And it's showing that commentary against that 1%, against that corporate system, against that studio system. And not only that, but what's also important is that the real Annie Murphy comes in at the end also with the house arrest bracelet on. They both just took down the supercomputer at Streamberry, aka Netflix, and it reminds me of right now, where people could say like, oh, actors are above these people, and these people, directors are above actors, but at the end of the day, it's showing you that we all have to stick together against this higher powers that be, this 1%, these studios that want a world where they don't need us. They could just deep fake the actors, do AI scripts. So they're showing you with Annie Murphy and the real Joan that they're under this house arrest together with the system, but they're fighting it. They're fighting for the cause. And I feel like that is so with what feels like right now, that everybody's awakening and has to team together at different areas in Hollywood against this super machine, this 1%, these streamers, these studios. What I also thought was interesting was that when she sits down with her fiance and they put on Streamberry, I like they have all the Easter eggs of different episodes or characters from different Black Mirror episodes, but it's so chilling that when they play Joan is Awful on the TV, if you pause, it's at about 44 minutes it has left, and the episode itself has about 44 minutes left while you're watching on Netflix. I thought that was really cool and eerie, and that's when Black Mirror is at its best. And I thought this was one of the most humorous episodes of Black Mirror, and I actually think it was the funniest, because every time Annie Murphy's Joan would do something, it was hysterical to see Salma Hayek do a heightened version of it. It was perfect. I laughed every time, especially with Salma Hayek, just little moments when she's eating breakfast and she does the and then her doing the rap was great. One of my favorite Easter eggs was when Mac is looking through Twitter and he sees Lacey Pound tweets about a pie she made, which we know is Bryce Dallas Howard from the episode of Nosedive, which was one of my favorites. And it was one of the funniest moments when Salma Hayek sees it goes another level and she sees it's Kate Blanchett playing her. And Annie Murphy has just obviously perfect for this role because it had to have a lot of humorous moments to keep it for getting repetitive and keeping it interesting, and she nails it here. And I love the moment, just her looking at the CEO of Streamberry, hails Joan as awful in the newspaper, and she just says, "I'm in a pantsuit." I thought that was so funny. But one of the most important scenes is when she first talks to her lawyer, and she shows how Streamberry has all of their tracks covered to use her story, her life, and that she handed it over when she signed up all this information for Streamberry. And then we learn it's not really Salma Hayek. It's a digital likeness of Salma Hayek. The whole show is CGI deepfake. This is stuff studios really want to do. It's still blowing my mind that Netflix allowed this on their own streaming site, something that's completely taking them down, especially with the writer's strike going on. I think I love it. It's brilliant. And I don't like saying that word that much, but it is. And just, again, with the great blend of humor, they could make Miss Hayek blow an orangutan if they wanted to. It was so funny. And it's showing you with the computer, having the supercomputer, they can get the content up even quicker. And because, like with personal ads, we see they're saying it's the way to find out what you did in your real life and give you stuff that is more relatable to you, but with your favorite actor's face on it. And then even when she says, it's defamation of my character, it's heightened version. She's like, yes, but that's covered too by Streamberry. Creating characters and dialogue for dramatic purposes is what you sign off. So, again, why you have to have a Annie Murphy here, she's a great comedic actress to pull off a scene that is her eating burgers, taking this Max Lax and humiliates herself in a church during a wedding. And she does this to get Salma Hayek, the real Salma Hayek, angry about her face being attached to that project. And it's crazy when you think back to this. This is actually the real Joan trying to make the Annie Murphy mad. And I love when the prison photographer's like saying that the show's on his list, Joan is awful, and she says, just wait till episode 4. I hear it's a blast. And it's great. We get to see Annie Murphy in like this Harley Quinn type vibe going on. And the best line Salma Hayek has in this episode is when she's talking to her lawyer now and mad how they're using her image and that Streamberry's screwing her over too in the contract. And she's like, doesn't my asshole have rights? So funny. But that's why they did such a good job showing when Salma Hayek shows up to Annie Murphy's Joan that they first are mad at each other, but then they realize they're both getting screwed by the system, getting screwed by the studio, getting screwed by the 1%. And that power that Salma Hayek she needs to have to step in, because she is Salma Hayek, to get them into the doors. And we're seeing that today with the strike. And they literally say, let's bring down the system, the computer thing. And they say they have taken 100 years of cinema and diminished it to an app. So again, this is like the biggest murder of Netflix, and it's on their own site. And a great line, they're paying her a tenth of George Clooney, and they're sticking his head on a Thomas the Tank Engine reboot. And I love they put Salma Hayek, who's really playing the real Annie Murphy, in this Kill Bill outfit too, just again going into Streamberry, which is really Netflix's office, and taking down this computer. And what's even more chilling and haunting is how accurate this is to today, because you see on the list with the CEO shows 3 and 4 of their plans is the AI prompt writer's room, literally something we're dealing with right now with the writer's strike, and deep fake casting, which could be a total threat to actors' jobs. And it shows this computer will make content instantly and as relatable as can be, and that negativity sells. That's why they made it Joan is awful, and that they're running off the neurotic views of ourselves, and that we get in a state of mesmerized horror, and hey, it drives engagement. So really, really good writing here. And I love while you're watching, you really feel the Black Mirror effect happen here when we meet Michael Cera, and he's a digital likeness of Michael Cera, informs us about Source Joan, and then you're trying to wrap your head around it. And there's a great line here. He says, it's not called Salma Hayek gets everything explained to her, but doesn't understand it still. I thought that was so, so good. But we see that the real Joan ended up destroying the computer, and that Salma Hayek was the real Annie Murphy. It was very, very cool effect. And like I said, to get this great scene, to me, of them working together at the end, and I thought this was just beautiful, brilliant, and timely. It was so shocking that this was on Netflix itself, because it literally is a commentary on Netflix and the studio system, what they're trying to do right now. So I'm shocked, but I loved it. And I'm giving this one a 9.6. It's Black Mirror at its best. It's got great humor. It's got the horror reality of technology, but it's scarier than the rest because this is actually happening right now. And we are fighting this right now in Hollywood to stop it going this way. So I think this is going to speak and hit hard to a lot of people right now. So Let me know what you thought of this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. I try to respond as many as I can. Please subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of Black Mirror. And like I said, I really want to see the comments for this one. That helps me a lot, and I try to respond as many as I can. I love hearing all different theories and thoughts about Black Mirror. I'll see you next time.